With more than 100 years of experience between the four of them, covering Minnesota high school athletics, the Minnesota Sun newspaper's sports editors bring you Sun on Sports.
And we're back with Sun on Sports again. I'm Mike Shaughnessy, joined by John Sherman, Greg Kleven, and Nick Clark. Class Lake Conference games coming up on Friday, September 25th. Especially big one taking place at Edina on Friday with defending state champion Wayzata coming to town. Can Edina protect its house against the Trojans?
Well, Mike, I'll tell you, only Edina would schedule the defending state 5A champion for their homecoming. Obviously, the Hornets are confident they can do something with Wayzata, although no one has been able to do much against the Trojans this year, as evidenced by Wayzata's 28-0 win over a very good Minnetonka team. Edina's a little bit depleted at quarterback right now. Nate Carlson was out of action with a broken jaw in the Hopkins game, probably will not be back the rest of the season. That leaves it in the hands of Danny Glass, who's a strong-armed quarterback with a little bit of varsity experience now, but he'll face a very tough Trojan defense, and we'll have to see what Edina can do. Edina, of course, does provide a good mix of passing and running, diverse offense, and that's their hope, that they can control the football against Wayzata.
Nick, the Wayzata steamroller rumbles on through Wayzata's first two games. Their defense had not allowed a touchdown. To this point, what's made their defense so good?
Well, one thing you can point to is leadership. They had 5-6 guys back off last year's state championship team, returning starters, and not just guys that contributed, big-time players from last year. A.J. Tarpley going to Stanford University is a linebacker. Grant Olson, another linebacker who's got a number of Division I offers. He's going through. Toby Okiemi, same kind of deal. A defensive lineman going through some Division I offers. They have talented players that like to step up and lead, and they don't like to be scored upon. I mean, so far the only touchdown that's been scored on Wayzata is been on a special teams play in the opener against ECU. They've been that good, and to go into Minnetonka a couple weeks ago and to shut out the Skippers in a game that I know Minnetonka was more than ready for was a testament to the strength of that defense. This week could be a little different. Edina's been the one team in this series the last couple of years that has given Wayzata some problems. Last year it was a one-score game late, and if you looked at Wayzata's results last year, that was very, very uncommon. They had their way most nights. Granted, that was with Anders Lee scoring a lot of touchdowns for Wayzata last year, or for Edina last year. So no Anders Lee, probably no chance for Edina this year. It's a road game, but Wayzata just looks to be too good and to be on too much of a roll right now to be threatened by a team like Edina, who is really rebuilding in some areas. They got some good athletes on that team, and they're probably going to be a decent football team by the time the season's over. But right now, midway through, probably not there yet with Wayzata.
Also in the Classic Lake, we have a game that, it may actually be the last meeting between these schools for a while. We have Minnetonka playing at Robbinsdale Armstrong. Robbinsdale Armstrong, after this year, is joining the Northwest Suburban Conference. Minnetonka has been assigned to the Lake Conference in that ongoing soap opera, so unless these teams choose to schedule each other in a non-conference game or meet in the playoffs, this could be the last time they face each other for a while. Nick, I assume Minnetonka would come in as the favorite. Armstrong has a new regime in place, new head coach. How have things gone for them in the first few weeks?
I think a little slower than Ryan Bartlett, the new head coach, anticipated. I think he hoped they would come out a little faster. They've struggled early. They've lost. They lost their first two games. They are introducing a new offense this year, and I think that's part of the reason they've struggled to really get moving. Is it's taken some guys some time to adjust. Now, the one benefit of the spread offense, which is what Armstrong is trying to do now, is it gets athletes in the halls back onto the football team. In its first year, the team was pretty much what the team was when they were juniors and sophomores. It's pretty the same football players are. That hasn't really spread across yet. They're not the basketball players and whatnot aren't coming out for football yet. Once they do, it'll probably start to work. Minnetonka is probably going to pose too much of a problem though for a team in that kind of a transition. They held Wayzata to 7 points until the fourth quarter. Their defense is awfully stingy, and I don't think any type of spread or anything Armstrong throws at him is going to throw off the Skippers. I mean, you got Bo Allen in the middle anchoring that thing, and it might not matter what Armstrong tries to do. They might not go very far.
John, Minnetonka lost to Wayzata in week 2, 28-0 at home. No real shame at this point in the season losing to Wayzata. Still, they have to be smarting a little bit from that. Can you see them bouncing back?
Well, Mike, they're smarting after any loss to Wayzata, and they've done fairly well against Wayzata, probably better than most teams over the years. I expect Minnetonka to come out and have a good game against Armstrong and put some points on the board, and obviously they'll shut down that spread. They've got great athletes at every position, fine secondary led by Zach Siemens, and Bo Allen's up front negating any running attack the Falcons might have. So I look for a big Minnetonka victory, and they're looking ahead already to the rematch with Wayzata, which will come during MEA week.
The final game in the involving a Classic Lake team for this week is a non-conference game with Duluth East driving down to play at Hopkins. Sounds like could be some potential for Hopkins to pad some offensive stats.
Mike, that's what they do at Hopkins. They run the spread, and they put up big numbers every week. They've got a new quarterback this year, Bill Gregg, replacing the All-Stater Sean Borman. And Greg looks very comfortable at the controls of that offense. He's got a number of good receivers. He's got a big running back with Dami Mafe, and Hopkins just keeps rolling with that offense. They had to replace most of the starting lineup, but haven't missed a beat.
I will say this real quick about their opponent, though, and a credit to these Classic Lake teams that, with a 5-team conference, you have to go out and fill a football schedule with a lot of non-conference games. Generally, they do so with pretty good opponents. Duluth East is one. They were a state quarterfinal team in the Class 4A last year, and I don't know what they bring back or who they returned or what they graduated off that team. But I imagine Hopkins is going to get a little more than a game than some people are expecting, just in that it's usually a building up there in Duluth in the harbor that has a bunch of athletes in it, and they come down, they'll probably give a little more of a show than some people are expecting.
Nick, you may have a point. I still expect it to be a long bus ride back home for Duluth East.
Greg, do you think Mike Grant has any spies watching these Classic Lake games, since these are the teams he's going to be playing next year?
He does a lot of that scouting. He might have some of his assistants at the games. He watches whatever film, if a game's on TV, he studies that. He does a lot of film watching, and he keeps tabs on all these teams, and I imagine he's going to have a scouting report, because he never knows who they're going to play in the section playoffs or the state.
Next up, we're going to look at the upcoming Northwest Suburban Conference games, including the brawl between Champlin Park and Blaine.
To hear this discussion continue, go online now to mnsun.com/sports or tune in next Saturday to AM 950 KTNF, the voice of Minnesota.